Hello and welcome to the Perdie channel. I am your host, Matthew Perdie, and we have Alexandra on again. How you doing?
Very good. Thanks, Matt, for having me on.
Yeah, things have been kind of crazy lately, right? Just all the SSPX wants to do is preserve tradition, consecrate some bishops,
Save souls.
Yeah, I mean, it seems to be a very controversial thing to just keep the traditional mass alive these days, right? Like, why is this so controversial?
Well, I think, ultimately Jesus said if he's persecuted, we'll be persecuted, but the devil hates it. The devil hates the truth and what's saving souls. And so if it's saving souls, he's going to go right after it. So I think that's the background, but the current situation of the church, we either laugh or cry, of course, but the SSPX, of course, coming out saying they're going to consecrate bishops now on July 1st, is a huge thing. And I think, just as the superior said, it's drawing the lines. It's making it black and white. So people are asking, well, why would they do something like that? Like, just in case you weren't clear, we're in a crisis in the church. So it's drawing the line. It's very clear. And then you have to figure out, well, why? Is this a good thing or a bad thing? Is this gonna help or hurt the church? Are these guys good guys or bad guys? If you're in the society, I think almost everyone is so happy this is happening. We waited 38 years. So the last ones were in 1988. We consecrated bishops by Archbishop Lefebvre. Hopefully he'll be declared saint one day. And now today. And people are saying, well, like one of my friends, he says, well, the society should have been a little bit more patient. They asked for bishops, which we have been. We've been trying to, regularize, in their sense of the term. And no conversations, no talking, no nothing. I mean, all of that's come out to the front so everyone could see it. But we wouldn't accept their errors. And that's what's drawn this whole thing out. They want us to accept certain errors, things that are against the faith, against dogmas and doctrines of the church. And we keep saying no every time. And so the patience thing, when it came up in a conversation with a friend, they just be a little bit more patient. I said, well, how patient is patient? Because we've waited 38 years.
38 years is a good while, I'd say. We had half our lifetime for like an average lifespan of a person, right?
Exactly. So yeah, I mean, that's just dumb. I mean, what's on the line? You have to think of that too. The crisis we're facing is that we're losing souls. It's worse than any war of destruction of life. The destruction of the soul is even worse. And so how long do you wait to take action to help save souls? And it's getting to that point again where, I talked to some priests and they says, well, we can't, and I have a mission I'm connected with in Africa. And they just can't get to people. There's not enough priests. There's so many people that want the faith. They need the sacraments. I mean, imagine if you couldn't go to Mass more than once a month because the priest only comes around, around your area once every month.
Wow.
Or you couldn't go to confession for over 5 months because the priest only comes to your area every 5 months. I mean, that's really like...
Yeah, that's
I
bad.
wouldn't want to live in those places, but, grace of God is getting to them somehow, but, it's getting harder and harder with less and less priests. And if you don't got priests who are sacrificial and wanting to do that, which is to save their souls by giving them the sacraments, then we have to do something about it. And that's what the purpose of the consecration is we need to have good, holy priests in order to give the sacraments of the church to save these souls. And so waiting around is not going to get the job done. That's just the reality of it. So,
well, I just, it's just funny because I'm thinking about, like, if the SSPX actually were to cave, they're not going to. Thank God, we've got some good men in there, but leading the effort to preserve the traditional mass. But if the SSPX gave in, the traditional mass would just die, wouldn't it?
Well, that's what it looked like in the very beginning too. You had all of Rome changing and abandoning the faith, to frankly put it. And so you had these priests that would leave the seminary because they had feminazis coming in to teach them. They had, Protestants coming in to give some of their their seminarian classes. It's like, what? You know, you have these feminazis coming in, you got these Protestants coming in, like, this is not Catholic, period. And so you had men who were legitimately worried that they were not going to be, you know, of course you could do your own education stuff out on the side, but going into a seminary and being indoctrinated with this stuff, what kind of priests are you going to come out with? And we've seen the infiltration. Bella Dodd, who was converted by Fulton Sheen, she said they infiltrated the priesthood with all these bad priests. And so anyways, you had this group of priests that went to Archbishop Lefebvre and begged, says, we just want to be priests. You know, the same kind of priest the church has always wanted and desired, and we have this desire to be confirmed and ordained real priest. Can you help us? And, you know, at first she's like, no, I don't want to, I just retired. I'm kind of done. But no, they kept being persistent and asking, and then he just looked around and he saw what was happening. You know, it was that bad. And that's the situation, like, if it was bad in 1988, how bad is it now in 2026?
Right.
I mean, some of the doctrinal things that they were fighting back then weren't even half as bad, if you can say it in a certain sense, than what we're facing today. It's just, I don't even know where to begin to explain to someone, like, if they don't see the crisis, I'm like, where have you been?
Well, I've been seeing a lot of people online, a lot of these Novus Ordo and Novus Ordo adjacent Catholics, they're saying, oh, you know, the laymen, a bunch of laymen, are going to leave the SSPX. It's going to be a mass exodus from the SSPX. I mean, what's your response to that?
I think it's a lie. I really do. I think they're covering it up because people who are outside, like Bishop Schneider, Bishop Strickland, and those are just, you know, top people. And you got a whole bunch of other people outside the society who are not SSPX, all coming to the conclusion, like, you guys are doing something really good. And I didn't realize how bad it was until this happened. And, you know, like, some people were saying, well, it's scary to be excommunicated, right? So that's why there might be mass people leaving. But that's not true, because, one, you have to know what excommunication is and who's given it, I think. And if you think about who said, like, who came out and said that the SSPX will be excommunicated if they go forward with this, it was Kissy Fernandez. Cardinal Kissy Fernandez, we nickname him because of his evil, I mean, just his whole, everything is evil, but he did this, for those that don't know, his book, The Art of Kissing.
Yeah, that came out, 1995-ish? Around there?
I don't know.
I think it was in the 90s, yeah.
I don't know the date, but yeah, I mean, and he acts like a homosexual and all this stuff, and
do you think he carries lipstick around?
He might.
yeah, he seems like the kind of guy that would actually carry lipstick around.
He might. I mean, I wouldn't be surprised.
So tell us about, let's get into the art of kissing. We're not going to dive into the book because that would be disgusting and degenerate. But at least let's just get a general idea of what this book was and when he wrote it. He did it when he was a priest, right?
I think so. I don't know. I don't remember. I don't recall the date of when he did it.
Yeah, I think it was in the 90s.
But it's a very erotic, very immoral. I mean, I haven't read it. I would never read it. But from what I've heard of those who have dug into it some, it's really, really bad. And the his promotion of it, it wasn't something like he wrote and that is not part of that anymore. It's something he's continued in his life, just his whole lifestyle. But you got someone like that, it just speaks to his character, someone who's that evil and that bad, now coming out and telling the good guys, hey, you're bad.
Yeah.
When we're looking at him like, actually, you're the bad guy.
Dude, like, what is wrong with you? You know what? Actually, right now, I am going to look up his book and see if it's on Amazon. Because, think about it. If the book's still being sold, who's making money off it? I imagine he is, right?
Yeah, that's a good idea.
The art of kissing. The fact this is from a priest is so bad.
Yeah, I know. It's really unbelievable. But we have right now we have homosexuals being promoted. We have Freemasons being given high positions in the Vatican. People said, "Oh well, Leo might turn that around. He might, start promoting some good guys." But we haven't seen one good guy really get promoted. But we've seen dozens. There's one priest, I remember he just started listing them out. This guy's open homosexual. This guy is, probably a pedophile, and this one is, this and this and this and this, and Freemasons, and it's just so evil. And you're like, yeah, I don't think it's gonna get better.
Yeah, I'm trying to find it, and there's several books called The Art of Kissing, as I'm seeing, but
I'll put his name Fernandez in there.
I did, and there's one that popped up, and it says by unknown author, and I'm like, I don't know. It could be that one. I'm going to have to dive a little bit and see if it's actually in Amazon.
I don't know if it's translated into English yet.
Oh, that's a good point.
It might be in Italian.
Weird.
Or he's from South America, so I don't know. I don't know what language it's in, but it could be in different language.
Just so weird. Like why would you write something like that? It's so.
He's in charge of the department. Well, I call it department, but the Congregation for the Deposit of Faith, I think, is the Doctrine of the Faith now. And you think of someone who is supposed to be in charge of that, will uphold the faith, have a sense of its moral obligations, know the basic commands of God, and have a sense of morality, and to protect the faith. And when you're living a lifestyle that's something that demoralizing and that degenerate, it's like, how did you even get to that position? It's like, promoting someone to be a doctor when he's never even went to the university or studied anything, and yet he's practiced, different, things that actually kill somebody. It's like, you did exactly the opposite of what your office is supposed to hold. So I don't know, but it just shows you how bad things are, and it's not like we weren't warned, because, and it wasn't just once. Our Lady of Fatima, Our Lady of Akita, Lady of Good Success, Our Lady of La Salette, all these different appearances of our Blessed Mother, she said the Antichrist will reign from the seat of Peter. We're going to have a big, infiltration, Freemasons, evil, whatever you want, basically take over at the top. And if you listen to our Lord, too, in the Gospel, he said there will be wolves in sheep's clothing. And I think the point that people miss today is that, okay, if you see a wolf, like Fernandez, telling you you're going to get excommunicated for simply living the faith and continuing on, what weight does that hold? It holds nothing. It means what he's calling you is null and void.
Right.
So you have some people that are starting to see that, like, well, if it's coming from someone like that, it really doesn't mean anything. So you have, a group of people understand it like that. You have others who we're taking a look at the excommunications as something more evil, in the sense that, well, it's still something officially coming from the Vatican, so it's going to be binding on you. What it's not true. And it's kind of like the excommunication of St. Joan of Arc, of Bishop St. Athanasius himself. And, every creed was allowed during his time except for the Nicene Creed.
Wow.
And he stuck to it, and he just kept being Catholic. And that's what we have to do. And despite them calling him, excommunicated, a bad bishop, whatever, he was actually the one that was the true bishop. So it's like the name calling, just let it go in one ear and out the other, in a sense. That's one sense of thing. Other people said it's going to be a badge of honor, and I think
it doesn't bother me. I'm like, this is fun, man. This is purposeful stuff. I mean, this is the kind of thing that gives our lives more purpose, right? And anytime there's an opportunity for a few people to stand up and hold the ground, and I'm all for it. I get excited for that kind of stuff, and so I don't know why people are so cowardly about it, but I don't know. I just think that I don't think there's as many cowards in the SSPX. I think most of them are pretty solid, and I think they're doing some really good PR for the SSPX right now, the Vatican, right? They don't realize
it's good
it,
advertising.
But they're doing wonderful advertising.
I think so, and that's the blessing of it. It's not that we're rejoicing like, yay, we're going to be excommunicated. Like, we're not rejoicing because it's an injustice for them to do that. Calling the real Catholics bad Catholics, whereas the bad Catholics are quote unquote being called the real Catholics.
Right.
It's what the gospel's talking about. The good will be called evil, and evil good. So, and we're not saying that everyone outside the SSPX is evil.
No.
But what they're trying to do and trying to quote unquote excommunicate us is point us out as the bad guys, which isn't the case. And I think people are starting to see that truth. They're like, wait, so why are they being excommunicated? And that's what the superior said in his response back to Rome. He goes, well, this is our faith, and he did that whole declaration of faith, which is beautiful. If anybody hasn't read that, they should go read it. And it put Rome on the spot, because you're like, so now as the Pope, you're supposed to confirm your brethren in the faith. So he just did an act of faith, and now what are you going to do? You're going to tell him you're still bad, because he just said everything that the Catholic Church has always believed, everywhere at all times.
What a gangster. He knows what he's doing, Pogbarani.
So
Don P. Don P.
Yeah, David against Goliath, as some people say, but it's so obvious. They're like, okay, if they're saying this, then what's wrong? And that's basically what the SSPX said. Tell us what we're doing that's wrong. That's not Catholic. And Rome can't answer that, because Rome right now has been infiltrated by the Freemasons, and they just want us to lose the faith. They want us to deny certain things. You know, for example, right now, if you're a homosexual, you can go parade through St. Peter's. But woe to you if you're SSPX and want to have a mass in St. Peter's. I mean, how wrong is that? Well,
I mean, let's not forget that this is coming from the Vatican, where the Pope is blessing rocks of ice because of climate change, and will not shut up about migrants. This makes me so angry, because he's from this country, right? Or he's lived in this country. I don't remember. Where's the Pope born? Was he born in the U.S.?
Chicago.
He was born in Chicago. Yeah, I know he's from Chicago, but
nothing comes good from Chicago.
he lived also overseas at some point, right?
Yeah, I think he was in Argentina for a while.
Oh, okay, yeah, that's what confused me. But the amount of people that are murdered by migrants, by illegals in this country is in the thousands. You're talking 4,000, 5,000 every year die from just drunk driving illegals. Those are just the drunk drivers that shouldn't even be here. Let's not, and then you bring in the crime as the ones that are intentionally murdering people, right?
Right.
And you're talking tens of thousands of people every year. And how many are dying in ICE detention facilities? Exactly. And you have the gall to keep lecturing the United States, the Trump administration, about how terrible they treat illegals. He's tweeted about it like a dozen or more times since he's become Pope. Why is he so obsessed with victimizing migrants? Well, he never talks about the victims of the people that they're murdering.
Well, it's part of the new agenda, the new world order. You know, their goal is to, it's the replacement theory. You know, they're very big on that.
Yeah.
And if they want to destroy something or take over something, then they need to start replacing. And so they're trying to replace Americans. We see it with the immigrants and how that flooded in, especially during Obama's time, which is huge. And we're dealing with the consequences of it, of course. But, you know, all the places are dealing that. England is, you know, my grandma's from England. My dad's from England, so my grandma lives there. And it doesn't even feel like London anymore. You know,
wow.
With the replacement that they've done. And if you're a white person walking in London, you better be very, very careful. The replacement has been I think it's like 90% replaced now over there. And so it's scary. It really is. And you think, well, people are like, oh, they play, and the left are very good at playing emotions. Well, we got to be, you know, welcoming and help those that are less fortunate come into our country and have some of the benefits that we've had, or the American dream, right, or something like that. But that's just their cover. You know, they're not, that's not their goal, is to help humanity. Their goal is to get, and in this case, so sometimes they're getting the worst of the worst and flooding them directly into, you know, paying for their plane tickets, their bus tickets, whatever it is to get them there. So they can create this, this new vacuum, you know, and the replacement is vacuum in the sense that, you have a, what do you call, you know, when you're having a, not red flag, what words I'm looking for, where it's the tension back and forth between what's going on. I mean, it is a lot of tension with at the border for the longest time.
Oh, yeah.
And what was going on there and how bad it was, and the law enforcement being overwhelmed and so forth. And you hear the farmers trying to just protect their lands, and the swarming going on and all that. It's so bad. But that shows that they really didn't care about, they're not caring for human compassion or for the people. They have a whole different agenda. And some people call it the color revolution, some people call it the replacement theory, but it's part of the one world government's tool, if you want to say, that they use to start getting a change moving. And it works.
Well, it
does work.
It's very selective victimization. Like, if you want to know what the political agenda is of the Pope, you just look at who he's victimizing.
Yeah.
You know?
Exactly. Who he's victimizing and what his... I mean, all his colors are out for everyone to see. You know, who he's promoting. Mm-hmm. You know, who he's backing, what he's saying. You know,
and also the timing, right? Like, you look at the timing of his protests of the Iran war. And listen, whether you're for or against the war, that's not where... I'm not really focused on that. I think it's really hard personally to opine on foreign policy fully because you don't have all the facts. You don't know all the dealings. You don't know what Trump is saying to get a reaction versus what he knows. It's so hard to assess things until things have played out.
Right.
But I think the Pope Leo waited for a moment when he thought Trump's approval was going to be low, which it was I think perceivably it was during the Iran war, and when that after a week or two after that kicked off. Mm-hmm. And I think that he chose to strike at that time and really come out hard against it. And then what do you see? You see a few of the bishops going up on 60 Minutes. Right? And what are they talking about? Yeah, they're talking about the Iran war and whatnot, but they also took a lot of time to talk about migrants. Oh, the poor migrants, right? Mm-hmm. The Trump administration's so horrible. They're so evil. Like, the hell is that about?
Yeah. Well, you're right. The timing of it's all connected in their new globalist agenda and on what they're trying to accomplish there. But it's evil using its different tools to take down. You know, they want, the devil wants the Catholics to die already. He's been trying to kill us since day one. He wants that ended in any way that he can split it off by either getting people to join other religions or persecutions. And this is what makes our time a little bit unique, is that before it was always, the attacks always came from the outside. We're speaking in the church, the attacks on the church, or it came from the outside. Well, the Freemasons, and they say this, they say we found a way, because every time we persecute or we try to, like the martyrs of the church, the church grew in great numbers. Right. Because of the witness of why are these people dying for this? It must be really that true if they're dying for it, Right. So they're like, this isn't working. The more we kill them, the more they multiply. Yeah. So we're going to stop
somehow.
Not that the killing all stopped everywhere. They're still doing that in different places like China and Africa. But they learned that if they can infiltrate from the inside, they could win more. And it's true. That's why they infiltrated in Vatican II. And then they started trying to do it even before Vatican II as well. And different popes like St. Pius X, we've talked about that before, fought it off. But now that they're on the inside, we have Freemason bishops. We have homosexual bishops and priests. And it's like, I can't even believe we're saying this, but yeah, that's what we have. And so you have these wolves in sheep's clothing now from the inside, which makes the attack and the operation much more different than it has been in the past. I mean, I don't know what you think on how the situation is different from what we've dealt with in the past.
Well, I'm so new to the Catholic Church. I'm still learning the full past, but I will say that looking at it from a political lens, because I just come from a realm of politics. I work for Breitbart, so I'm kind of it's just like, it's just sort of automatically I see political moves and words used, and whenever I see the Pope tweet something or push something out, I look at the verbiage he uses, and it's like walking the line as far as he possibly can, without crossing it, or at least, he'll cross it, I think, in certain ways, but you can tell that he's trying very hard to appear traditional while also pushing things as far to the left as humanly possible. Mm. But one of the things that has frustrated me are the amount of legitimately conservative Catholics who understand that the Pope is pushing globalist leftist stuff, and instead of actually criticizing the Pope, they're attacking the SSPXers. Even though they know that the things that are being said and promoted by the Pope are things that lead to the destruction of Western civilization and the deaths of Americans as well as many other people across the world. So why are so many conservative Catholics still fooled by this?
Well, I think it's part of the modernistic poison that's been injected everywhere, at least from what I've seen. It's what you said, where the victims are ignored and the person that did the deed is the one that we should have compassion for. It's the same thing. We're not the ones saying all these bad things or doing all these bad things, and yet we're being attacked for what he's saying. Don't tell us that we're not Catholic when we just said what he just did is not Catholic. Okay, or that is against our Blessed Mother or against the faith or whatever it is. And it reminds me of a conversation I had with a father. It was a real conversation I had in after Mass one Sunday at a normal parish at the time, and just a normal diocesan parish. And I was talking to this dad afterwards, and the society was in the news, so we were talking about it a little bit. And he told me how just evil and bad the SSPX are because they're so disobedient. That's the biggest problem with the SSPX. They're disobedient. They're like Protestants. Disobey. Don't want to toe the line. I said, come on. I said, really? I said, let's talk about this. And he goes, no, let me tell you something. He said, if I give my kids a command that I'm about to leave the house, I tell you, stay in the house, lock the door, and do not come out under any circumstance, then they have to be obedient and listen to my command. I said, yeah, that's true. That's good. He's walking me through this. He says, now while he's gone, the house catches fire. He said, if the house caught fire and his children obeyed him and remained in the house, then he would be more happy if they remained in the house because they had obeyed him. He would actually be upset if they had disobeyed him and come out. And I'm like, how construed is this?
Yeah, so he should be more happy if his children burned alive. What a sick freak. I'm sorry. You're a sick freak if you're listening to this. Is he still alive?
He is.
You're a sick freak. I don't care.
And I just, at the time, I was just shocked that someone would even say something like that. Just common sense tells you that's just wrong. I don't know why, but that's just wrong right now. At the time. But I've thought about it since, and there's two big things about his argument. One, it lacks charity. If you really love your kids, you want them to get out of the house if it's on fire. Okay? Not like, oh, you were so good, you obeyed me, and you burnt.
At least you obeyed me.
Yeah, that's so sick, really.
It's so sick.
But that's where the letter of the law is above the purpose of the law. So this is the second part. A priest was explaining this recently. Father Nix, I give him credit for his great article he's been posting around. He's like, Catholics need to understand the basic of moral acts. What is something, when something's morally a morally good act and when it's not. He says, we've been so conditioned to just think of the intention that nothing else matters. Whatever your intention was the good thing. And I think that's, we all kind of slip into that sometimes. Well, at least he was, he thought of trying to do something. So if you think about the dad's argument, so he said for a moral act to be good, it has three things. He said it's the object, then it's the intention, and then it's the circumstance. And he says if all three of those are good, then it's a moral act. If one of those things is off, it's an evil act. So, for example, you could say, well, the object was he told his kids to obey him, right? To stay in the house. So that's good. The intention was he wanted to keep his kids safe, no harm. Okay, that's good. The circumstance changed, though. The house was on fire. Yeah. So this act of obedience couldn't follow a straight line anymore as he thought it was. And so the moral act isn't there. It actually, kids would have been committing suicide. For example, God doesn't tell you obey me to the point of death in the sense that in something like this is just so ridiculous. You're like, no, that's not the purpose of the law.
Right.
The purpose isn't to get you in a house, tell you to be obedient, and then get yourself burnt. That's not how God's law works, okay? So I thought that kind of cleared it up in the sense that, okay, yeah, those three things have to be, the object, the intention, and the circumstance all have to be good in order for that to be a moral act. So as he's trying to say, well, it was better for my kids to obey me, and saying that was very moral, that would be the more virtuous act. Actually,
maybe
you're
better
wrong.
better for your pride, maybe, right?
Yeah, exactly. I'm like, no, that was not a moral act if they were to do something like that. So now if you think of the SSPX, are they really being disobedient in the sense like, oh, we're just not going to listen to you, or is there something deeper? And so you have to think. So what's their object? Their object is to save souls. They're trying to get the sacraments to people. They're trying to get more priests and bishops to do so. All right, and their intention is to save souls, right? And their intention is not to leave the church either. They're continuing to be Catholic as Catholics have always been. And the circumstance, well, we're in a crisis. So the circumstance, like in normal times, yeah, you would ask the bishop and go through the proper channels, etc., and things would be easy. But now that we have infiltrators at the top, wolves, than sheep's clothing, you ask the wolf, hey, can I consecrate a bishop? You think he's going to say yes when his goal is to destroy from within? No. So the circumstance has changed, so we have to change with the circumstance. So if we have infiltrators working, in there, then we have to, act accordingly. And I think that's what takes, bravery and courage in our times, is to do that and to make that, that distinction. That's
well said, and I appreciate you breaking down the means to measure whether something's good or bad, right? I think that's the one thing I love about traditional Catholicism, is that there's so many tools at your disposal to be able to gauge and discern things, right?
Right.
It's really helpful.
That's good. Because we could all get lost. We all don't know everything. I don't know everything.
No, it's super helpful. So it's great. Like, I love it.
What do we do? So.
But one of the things I've been thinking about this the past few weeks, and it just seems very convenient that the left takes over the Vatican. We know these are leftists. And we know in some cases these are leftists first, meaning they think they're kind of your typical Marxists. Like a lot of lifelong, or at least like super hardcore Marxists, will sacrifice anything and anyone for the cause, right? They don't care what the death toll is, even their own family. Karl Marx was like that, right?
Right.
But these are leftists first, often, and on top of that, I feel my point of view is that it seems like to me, and you can tell me what your thoughts are on this, leftists took over the Vatican, right? And then they took something that was, 99%, 100% conservative creation, like, some the mass and the church was a machine that created and pumped out all these conservatives, traditional conservatives. Leftists obviously hate anything that produces many traditional conservatives, large families, super pro-life, all that stuff. Mm-hmm. But then they did Vatican II. They made things more relativistic. They opened things up, right? More modernistic, loosened the church a lot. Now the church's politics now reflect the world, and I would even say it's even more left-leaning than you look at the United States. Even, the church is kind of politically a reflection of where the United States is, largely, not completely, but pretty close, in terms of the laity and like where they are politically. But I feel like it's really interesting in that I feel like the left took over, and then they decided, hey, you know what? By the way, you can't question the Pope. By the way, if you criticize the Pope, then you are in sin, or you are being uncharitable. And I feel like there's so many conservatives that are afraid. They believe that it is morally wrong to criticize the Vatican, to criticize the Pope, and to point these issues out. And I think it makes me wonder if they were this strict before about the criticizing of the Pope, when we still had more traditional, popes in there, or is this something that came after Vatican II at some point?
It's a good question. I think the Catholics always had this great loyalty, especially if you think about the Protestant revolt. They wanted to revolt from the hierarchy, revolt from the Pope, etc. And so you had the loyalty of Catholics on the opposite side of that spectrum. But I don't think that it was used in the same way that it exploded to afterwards, especially where it got perverted, in the sense that for true obedience, obedience is only a moral virtue. Then you have the 4 cardinal virtues, and then you have the 3 theological virtues. So the theological virtues are faith, hope, and love, for example. And if you're being asked, for example, to, all right, give a pinch of incense to Pachamama, all right, let's go worship Pachamama in the Vatican. Well, faith is a higher virtue. And if you were to do that, you're actually breaking the first commandment. There's only one God, and Pachamama ain't it. Okay? And so worshiping that would be an act against the first commandment. And so you're actually, your obedience, a priest once drew it on a board. He said, so you have God at the top, then you have the 3 theological, then you have the 4 cardinal, and then you have the moral virtue of obedience. As long as obedience is following that straight and narrow path to God, you're good. But once it starts veering off of that, your obedience is no longer true. And I said, well, that's such a good way to look at it, because anybody could tell you to do and obey whatever.
Yeah.
It could be a civil law too, for whatever reason in communistic societies or Marxists create all sorts of weird laws in the past. So, the same thing, I think the church has lost the sense of discernment. Because one priest said, if they just, it goes back to understanding a moral act, right? If they just got some of the basics and not forgot some of that, and some of it's not their fault. The catechesis has really dropped since Vatican II. We're taught a new way to pray, which changed what we believe, which changed what we do, which changed what we know, and it's just like everything,
Yeah, and it's funny you mentioned that, because the people from the Novus Ordo, not all the people, but like some of these individuals who are slandering the SSPX, at the same time, they're like, oh, you're going to lose so much laity, man. You just watch. Ever look in a mirror? I mean, just look at the past, like, few
well, that's why they say, right? The left they always call you what they really are.
Yeah, that's true.
You're going to lose all of me. What? Have you looked and seen?
Yeah.
You're right. It's exactly that.
It's true.
So, yeah. And that's why I think we have to, especially in these days, have lots of charity, because I brought this bumper sticker to remind me to show you. Show us now. Show us this. So this bumper sticker, I actually made this bumper sticker for my sister, who was raising funds to pay off her college debts to become a nun. So I created this bumper sticker and was selling these to help her raise funds. But here on this side you have Archbishop Lefebvre, and his motto was Credimus Caritate, which means we have believed in charity. And then you have on this side the good St. Pius X.
What a gangster he
is. And his motto was to restore all things in Christ. So if you put it together, we have believed in charity to restore all things in Christ. And then in the center, of course, the SSPX logo, and it says Christus Vinci, Christus Regnat, Christus Imperat, which means Christ reigns, Christ rules, and basically speaking to the kingship of Christ, which this world wants destroyed. If you dare say Christ is king, I mean, yeah. I think you know some of that.
No, tell us about this bumper sticker, and you're saying it's to raise money for your sister?
Yeah, in the beginning, so this was like, 2017. I was helping her raise funds to pay off her college so she can go join the nunnery.
The nunnery. Oh, no.
Yeah, so, it was good. It was really a blessing. So we had several priests involved in the diocese because everyone knew she wanted to become a nun. And so we went on a nun run after we got out of college. So we graduated in 2014, and we went on a nun run to visit different convents.
Nice.
Which was really cool. We were trying to find traditional ones that were really dressed like nuns and acted like nuns.
A nun run. I've never heard of that, but are there nuns that don't act like nuns?
Oh, yes. For the sisters on the bus, if you look them up, they're the most radical Nazi feminized nuns, if you want to call them that. No habits, really short hair. They pushed for abortion way back in the 60s. And they dare to call themselves nuns. It's a sacrilege, blasphemy, really. But yeah, they're nicknamed nuns on a bus because they would travel in a bus trying to promote this feminazism everywhere. So that was really so yeah, just like the priesthood was infiltrated, the convents and the monasteries were infiltrated as well. And they would send different people to re-educate them, which was a disaster. We actually seen this, and it's still happening today. We had some Carmelites up in Pennsylvania, which I know some friends got involved. We all went out there to protest in front of the convent because the Vatican was having their visit there and sending someone who was a sister and not in a habit to come evaluate. And I had actually one that I could speak to more of because I was more involved was the Franciscan Friar Sisters of the Immaculata. This is when Pope Francis was still Pope. It's just started out, I think, his second year. Anyways, the order had just voted, because their order is, I think they're on like 8 different continents, voted to only have the traditional Latin Mass going forward. And so it was a huge thing. It was like a great victory. And I was talking to the Mother Superior here in the States. She's in Rhode Island. And they're just so happy that that was going to happen. Well, as soon as they made that declaration and they changed it in the rule book and everybody signed it, it was official. That was that. Then the Vatican stepped in.
Of course.
Of course. So a nun showed up at the convent and knocked on the door. No habit, just wearing pantsuit, basically.
Oh.
And so you could tell it was really bad.
Pantsuits,
so,
man,
and a clipboard.
Leftist.
Pantsuit and a clipboard. And no joke. Mother told me exactly what happened. She says, well, let's start in the chapel. So she takes her to the chapel with her clipboard. And there's this, it's called a lectern. So it's like kind of like with the priest stand at the pulpit. So the lectern, but it has 2 sides to it. So the different readings from the different sides of the choir can happen. And that's for the divine office, the chanting of divine office. Well, that's the first thing. She points at it with her pen and her clipboard in her hand. She goes, that has to go. And Mother's like, why? Why does it have to go? That's what we use for divine office. Oh, disobedience. Okay, I'll make sure I mark that down. And she wrote it down immediately. And she's like, I just asked you, why does it have to go? The church has used this for, centuries. Like, what do you mean this has to go? Oh, more insubordination. So the more she asked questions, the more she got put down on the naughty list.
So leftist Karen Boomer Ordo.
Yes.
None.
Exactly. I said she said after that whole ordeal, and it got worse and worse. She said after that whole ordeal, she wishes that she just stood with a gun in front of the convent door and said, "Don't even dare come in." Like, it would have been better for that.
Wow.
Because afterwards, the Vatican took hold of it. The nuns that wanted to remain faithful dispersed. They had to leave and go into hiding. The other ones that were left there were forced into re-education classes, for becoming modernist nuns. And they would promote things like, you can't wear the rosary on your habit anymore. You can't do the traditional Latin Mass, of course, no Latin, and so forth. No praying the divine office. You need
Make sure that you're not reverent of Christ or more reverent. You can't be more reverent of Christ than us, right?
No, and it was so pathetic because there was things like, that you would think are just so obvious to anyone that this is a takeover.
Yeah.
And an evil takeover, really. If you're telling them to really get rid of everything that's always been Catholic, and they were told they need to be more, what was it? There's a lot of words the leftists use, but more social.
You need to be more for unity, right?
Yeah,
you're not for unity unless you accept leftist garbage and
well, you need to be
degeneracy.
more like, care more about the trees than you do about your divine office. That kind of total switch, into their hogwash, really. I mean, it was just so evil. So when we went on the nun run, we of course visited that convent and some others, and eventually my sister, through divine providence, was asked to help found a Benedictine monastery in Silver City, New Mexico. And these Benedictines, a wonderful group of monks, have already been there for, I think, at the time it was 35 years. But they wanted to found a sister convent. So St. Benedict had a twin sister. And the twin sister, he had founded the monks and she had founded the sisters. And so it's called a brother and sister, kind of things with the twins. So they wanted to open it, and she agreed to go ahead and start it with 5 others. And at the time, in our local parishes, she was, doing her fundraising like I was with the bumper sticker. That was just one aspect of it. some people found out that this monastery, these Benedictines, were friends to the society. Connected to the society. So different priests, they had donated money to her, to help her, and they were demanding their money back. They said, and this one priest particularly, he became very important in the diocese later. I won't say his name. He started a whole campaign against my sister and came out and said, if you go to the SSPX, you will go to hell.
What?
That's exactly what he told her. So.
Wow.
Yeah, so it got into such a crazy conversation that people were like, well, did you hear? Father said, and he's telling everybody now that, you're going to the SSPX, you're going to hell. And it's like, no. And we had to get different people involved to try to cool the water.
Are they waiting for the Pope to worship Satan before they think it's okay to disobey the Pope? Like explicitly? What are they waiting for? At what point? I mean, does their brain register the fact that human beings are running the Vatican and that human beings can have faults, right? They can fall into sin?
Right. I don't know.
I mean, we're not talking about Jesus Christ here. The Pope's not Jesus.
Right.
So, what's the deal here?
Well, I think some of them just want to willfully be blind. I mean, I think it goes down to the saying gospel that those who have eyes to see will see, and those who have ears to hear will hear. And those who are truly wanting to, follow Christ, he's not going to lead you astray. We all are on our different paths and trying to stay on the narrow road. But if you want to say that Pope Leo for right now is a great pope and doing so much good, you're blind. You really are blind, and we just had to pray for those type of people. I mean, we could tell them till our faces are blue, all the list of evils and things that he's done, and they're just not going to hear it. So we have to, that's the only thing we have to do is just pray for them, because you've told them the truth. It's not your job to convince. You're just to tell them the truth and pray for them that they get the light to see.
I also think we have to make them uncomfortable in their sin in a way that's not over the top, right? But I'm not seeing people being uncharitable towards the Vatican, their officials, and these priests that are fighting the SSPX and are being hostile to the SSPX. If anything, I'm seeing the lack of charity on their side. I'm not seeing a whole bunch of SSPXers going out and getting nasty. That's just not what I'm seeing. But I keep seeing all these calls for the SSPXers and the laity to be charitable, and I do think we should be charitable, absolutely. But I think the side that's showing a lack of charity is the side that's hostile to tradition, that's hostile to the Mass that we've been doing for well over 1,000 years.
Yeah, no, it's true. And I think because they have a perverse idea of charity, too. And I think that's why, it's good if, for example, David, the superior, David
Poglarani,
thank you.
Yeah.
He just did a wonderful, I think I sent to you right before the show,
yep.
His letter to the faithful. And he literally laid out, I love St. Paul when he goes through, love is patient, love is kind, love hopes all things, endures all things.
Nice.
And so, but it rejoices in the good. It does not rejoice in iniquity. And you start going through that list and checklist, is my love correct? And you start checking the list, And I think they fail on their side, because if they're rejoicing in Pope Leo, you're rejoicing in iniquity right now, because what he's promoting and what he's attacking our Blessed Mother, mediatrix of all graces and co-redemptrix. I mean, you can't do that, and so forth. So, it could be a false sense of love, and of course the devil loves that. I fight the homosexual lobby in my other work, and they say, well, love is love. Anybody can love anybody, but homosexual, unions are evil. Homosexual acts are evil.
Yeah.
I mean, God has told us many times, Sodom and Gomorrah, so forth, the reasons why he flooded the world was because of that sin. A
sin's bad when God floods the world over it.
Exactly. Or burns the whole town down.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's getting that bad again. So that, and if that's so evil, and that's what's being promoted in the Vatican today, wake up. Wake up, because if you follow them, we'll be judged on how we loved. Did we love Christ to the point of keep following his laws, obeying them, no matter if the Pope says, do this and do that, or that all religions will get you to heaven? I'm sorry, that's not the truth. And you have to, and that's where the true charity comes in, because charity will always have that clarity in the truth. And so that's why the SSPX are saying now, and other faithful Catholics are saying, no, this isn't the truth. This isn't right. And I mean, you see it and I see it, and we pray that other people will see it, and we just have to keep fighting the good fight. And fighting is what we have to do. I think the other part that scares me is that we have to never become lukewarm. And that's where
that's the real fear. I think that's one thing that I'm more fearful of than a lack of charity, in terms of like when I'm assessing things and where I see everyone at. I don't see the lack of charity. I see people being a little too chill.
Yeah. Well, faith without works is dead.
Right.
And so charity with no works is also dead. And if someone always says, "Oh, I love you," and then never does anything for that love, what does that prove?
You don't love me.
It's true. I mean, your husband and wives have to do that all the time, prove their love to each other, and we have to prove it to God, and we have to prove it to our neighbors and so forth. You might tell your neighbor, I love you," and every day you see him, he's doesn't have no food or whatever, and like, "Oh yeah, I love you, don't worry, you're starving, but I'm not going to do anything." I mean, then that's not real love, because love will prompt you to act. And so I think that's what people have to realize. If it's true love, and you truly love the faith, and you truly love Christ, then you act like a Christian. You believe all the truths, then also live those truths, and not, it's not just those who say, "Lord, Lord, we'll get to heaven."
Right. I'll tell you something that frustrates me a little bit. I'm seeing this a lot on X, is that you have all these Boomer Ordo priests like posting on social media attacking the SSPX directly. And I don't see them posting about heresy in the church, or problems in the church, or even problems outside the church, right? No, they're attacking the SSPX, which is like in size, like they're less than 100th the size of the actual church, although they're growing at a much more rapid pace, it seems like. But my thing is, these priests seem so obsessed and fixated on the SSPX, and our priests can't even defend themselves. I mean, you have Father Paglarani, right? Superior General, and you have others at the top who are able to post things online. But in general, most of these priests of the SSPX, they're not on social media at all, right?
Right.
So it's just, to me, it's slimy for all of these leftists, like Boomer Ordo priests, to go on an attack campaign on the SSPX online, and the SSPX priests can't even defend themselves because they don't go online. Thank God for that, because they wouldn't do cringe stuff if they were even, but look at all the horrible, cringy garbage that comes out of these accounts. But
yeah.
I mean, what do you think about these priests going on going on Twitter or X and just going crazy and attacking the SSPX obsessively?
Well, in a certain sense, I say it's kind of a good thing, because it shows the true colors of their side, on who they really are, what they're promoting, and what they're standing for. And then it also points to, the people that have never heard, just like yourself, you never heard of the SPX until it was forbidden.
Yeah, it's true.
You tell me that.
Until the FBI started spying on Latin mass goers. I'm like, oh, who are these guys? They must be cool. Exactly,
but you weren't the only one. There was, hundreds and hundreds to do that. So when something's, and that's kind of our human nature. Like anytime something's forbidden, you want to kind of figure it out, or something's a mystery. We want to go and find out more or whatever. But then a lot of people told me, they're like, well, I know your Pope's bad, and if he's against this, then this must be something good. And I says, well, you're a smart man. So it's kind of interesting to think of it in that sense. So it's a good sense, and it points to the truth. And for that, it's sad in the sense for those that listen to some of these talk heads, who think they're something, and I can't even call him Father James Martin, but that's what he is, and that's what Pope Leo says he is. Father James Martin, such a great priest, open homosexual promoting all that evil right in your face, in the most extreme ways. And he's a good priest, yay. Like,
disgusting.
No. And he goes on social media all the time and says these really nasty, horrible things.
Oh, did you hear? He blocked me on X.
Really?
Yeah. I was so proud of it. I think all I did was I opposed like one of his statements on migrants. He was going on the whole migrant pro illegal immigration kind of stuff.
Oh, go
and
Mac.
I pushed back, and I just, like, months later, I think I checked back and I was blocked. I was like, yes, yes. And I got to put up on my wall. It's on my X account and like the background. So I was very proud of that, actually.
That's funny.
But I got to get like a wall of shame for that. But yeah, go on.
Yeah, but it also shows where their battle is. If the SSPX are focused on saving souls, they're really doing their battle and focusing their energies on that. Whereas these other priests who aren't really about that, they're just about climate change and immigration and all that, and they're on social media fighting for that. You could see what they care about. And it's sad. It's sad that they're really not true priests and truly doing what God has called them and asked them to do, or they should have never become priests in a certain sense for some of them, especially Martin himself. And so, it shows that's the crisis we're facing. If you don't see what's going on, then just you could turn on social media and take a look. Okay, I mean, it's there, and I think it's kind of an interesting point too, because it's what Bishop Fulton Sheen said. It will be up to the laity to kind of help for that. So we can fight on social media.
Meme warfare. Listen, I didn't want to have to get into meme warfare, but I'm starting to get into it, and listen. Boomer Ordos, you brought this on yourself.
Well, I mean, it's what we have to do, right?
Yeah.
Humor, it always points to the truth, right? And so you use these memes, which is, ultimate humor in different ways and shapes and forms. It points to the truth of the matter. Like, I never thought the day would come where I'd made a meme that showed that marriage is between one man and one woman, or that this is a boy and this is a girl and there are only two genders. Like, is that insane? I know, but we've gotten to that point. But it's something we have to do in order to emphasize and promote and stand for the truth. No, we're not going to let them say there's like 166 genders or whatever they call the number these days. But there are only two genders, period. That's what God made, male and female. There's nothing else.
Yep.
And, and so it's important, I think, to Catholics to know, if you're going to fight the good fight, just keep speaking the truth. Keep living that truth. We can't be laid back like, oh, if they want to say that, they could say that. I know it's not true, but it could be. Because then you're falling into the relativistic errors of, what's true for me isn't true for them. And, who am I to say? Who am I to judge? Right? That all came out of the back. And, well, no, God said to judge them by their fruits. Okay? And he told us to fight the good fight. It's a race to heaven. You aren't going to get to heaven automatically. Only those who desire to get to heaven will get there. I think it's St. Thomas Aquinas. He got asked by his sisters, how do we get to heaven? How do we become saints? Because he's a big theologian, right? And he says, it's 3 things. You ready? And they're all like, yeah. And he's like, first, you have to desire it. Second, you have to desire it. And third, you have to desire it. And they're like, wait, that's it?
What?
Oh, that's it? I don't know. But it's true. Like, if you're really desiring something, like, say I desire to have, a cup of coffee right now. Well, if you really have that desire, what are you going to do? You're going to get up, go get water, start the pot, whatever. You're going to actually take action to fulfill that desire. And so that's what the importance was him talking about. If you desire to get to heaven, you're going to take action that will actually lead you and get you there. It's not like an empty, oh, I'm dreaming about it. Right. That's not really the idea. The desire is totally different. So I think that's a point today for Catholic law to fight. I mean, and you've been involved in a lot of the fighting that goes on for different aspects of in the political world.
Yeah, well, it's fun, and I have a good time with it, but sometimes I'm taking a back seat, just kind of cutting some clips and memeing some stuff, and
That's
other
good.
times it's a matter of covering it on the ground and just capturing the madness. It's fun. It's a lot of fun, but I'm glad God could use me for something like that, right? So
yeah, it's good. It's good. I think it's interesting. There was an attack by Pope Leo on And it was not just him. The globalists in general are really hating podcasters at the moment. You know, they're like, we can control the mainstream. Get the same message out.
Yeah, they keep trying to make their own podcasters, and they're all like terrible and cringe.
And they don't go. They don't fly, you know. And so it's a good thing that there's so many in all the different countries, too. They're just growing bigger and bigger. And they're like, oh, these podcasters are destroying our narrative.
Just can't control them.
So it's good. It's good, and I think Catholics need to do that. You know, they need to discuss and determine different things of how they're going to fight the good fight. You know, whether it's just within their own parish, within their families, within their towns or cities, whatever, and how they're going to defend that faith. Because one priest told me, he says, the devil always has a plan to take your soul. He's been studying you. He's been watching you, just like your guardian angel. Is there to guard you, but he's there to destroy you, to tempt you, to get you off the narrow path. He said, so you better have a plan to defeat the devil. You know, what's your battle plan to make it to the end? You know, so that's why St. Paul says, fight the good fight, run the race, you know, and it is, you know, our pilgrimage on earth is that race to heaven. And so we have to determine what it is that will help us and what will hurt us, and you know, where the faith really is today. I mean, a lot of people feel like we're gypsies going from one parish to another, just trying to, you know, some people who don't have the society, you know, jump from one to another trying to find a parish that offers, and it's getting harder.
Yeah.
You know, the traditional Latin Mass used to be more available. You know, even here in the Arlington Diocese, we had the most Latin Masses in all of the U.S. And more than 80% of them got shut down.
Wow.
So we went from, I think, like 48, I could be wrong on the exact numbers, but like 48 parishes offering the traditional Latin Mass, down to now only 8.
So let's look to the future. Once the SSPX consecrates its bishops, and the Vatican is going to likely excommunicate the priests, I'd imagine so, and maybe excluding the laity, right? Or likely to exclude the laity. What happens after that? What do you see happening after those events take place?
Well, I see several different things. I think what the enemy is saying, that there'll be a mass exodus, is actually, I think there's going to be a mass coming in to the society, actually. Because I think people have been waiting, like something needs to happen. So much evil is going on in the Vatican. You're just like looking for, you know, where's the Catholic faith? You know, where's the good priests? Where's the good bishops? And this is really pointed to the SSPX, like, hey, look over here. These guys are taking action. We're doing something. Right. And so I think I see people coming to the society instead, and I think the enemy's they play their cards wrong. They think we're gonna lose, and we had all these aces, and the bishops being a big part of that. So I see that really helping the faithful. It's giving us, and we thank God for it. You know, it's nothing that we deserve, but we thank God for this grace of, you know, getting these new bishops, and then again, you know, these new priests as well, who will then be able to provide the sacraments. As they're shutting down everything, we're starting to grow and increase. And so, as scary as it looks like, you know, I might not get confession, I might not get the Mass at this amount of time or whatever, there's more hope in the air, in the sense that, okay, there's actually good priests that are being formed and made, and so I might actually have a Mass near me, or the sacrament, get to the sacrament somehow. So I think it's going to be a great grace, and who knows what else will come out of it. You know, with great graces, you know, big things happen.
That's true.
So,
do you have any idea of who might get consecrated a bishop? We're still waiting right now on the names. Do you have any leads or speculation?
No, I've asked a couple different people, and they said this one priest I know, he usually gets really good inside information. He said they got it really tight.
Oh man!
Even he can't get anything out, and he always gets like firsthand knowledge of stuff. So, do
you have anyone that you would like to see, or you think would be a good bishop if selected?
I don't know. I don't know if I should say either. Oh, do you?
No. Well, yeah. I mean, yeah. I mean, I'd love to see Father Carlisle do it, right?
Yeah.
I mean, but maybe I'm a little biased because he baptized me, but I think he's got the heart of the kind of person that we need to lead the church in a lot of ways. He has the do or die attitude about the Latin Mass, and I think we need that right now.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm not, not going to be upset if he doesn't get picked, but
I think Father Wiseman would be a good one too.
yeah.
Bishop Wiseman.
Oh my gosh. Yeah, I'm not sure if he wants to do that, but
No, that's
he would do it if he was selected.
Well, I know some of those the ones that don't want to do it, like St. Pius X. He actually bought his round trip ticket from Venice. He was there in Venice, and he told his people, "I'll be back. Don't worry." And they're like, because he had to go to the conclave, and he said, "Don't worry, I already bought my ticket back." He was that convinced, and then he was like, "No, I'm not gonna be. No." He's one of the ones that was begging not to be the Pope. And he's one of the best ones. It's like, so sometimes the ones that don't want to be are the best ones for the job.
I mean, Father Wiseman's brilliant, so it would certainly, I think, benefit a lot of people. But I do look forward to their pick, and I'm very interested to see who they actually go for.
Yeah.
So,
not long. I think was it June? Is it June 1?
Is that the date
I know
that they're
it's in
announcing
June.
it?
I think it's June for sure, but someone told me it was June 1st.
Who said it was June 1st?
I'm trying to remember who it was, but I mean, maybe it was that priest I was talking about, but
Yeah.
they said it's June.
Wait, let me ask you, because they like to announce the stuff on like important holidays in the Catholic Church usually, right? So like, is there a certain saint day or something on June 1st?
Nothing that pops up to me.
Okay, I imagine that they're gonna like
nothing big.
I would imagine they'd want to line it up with some sort of holiday of some kind, right?
Yeah, maybe feast of
some
Sacred
sort of
Heart
feast day or something. Yeah,
I could see that. No, that's what the. It's interesting how dates work sometimes too, on how that plans out. So yeah. I could
guess
see
we'll
that.
see. Alexandra, thank you for coming on. This has been great. We will meet again soon and talk some more, because we're gonna have plenty to talk about in the next few months.
I'm sure. And thanks, Matt, for everything. Keep up the good work on your end.
Hey, you too.